Where are we now on stockpiling?
Well, the Secretary of State wrote to everybody asking them to build an extra 6 weeks stock, which we have been doing. The department has surveyed our members and I think are very pleased indeed with what we've been able to do. I think that's because actually a lot of people had started in advance of that request. I mean, I wrote out to my members in December last year and asked them to start planning for no deal, because I think our industry has the longest supply chains of any industry. So we typically can take up to a year to establish a supply chain for a new medicine. So you need to remember we're now less than 6 months away from potentially a hard Brexit. If we hadn't done the work now, it would already be too late. So companies have done the work. We, I think, have had a very good response to it, but we have always said that stockpiling will in itself not be enough to protect British patients. We will need to consider other things as well.
Martin Sawyer wants to come in.
Sorry, I can just add to that, but we have no sight of where the gaps are in that stockpiling. So us receiving medicines, and we have pre-wholesalers in our membership who are going to stockpile with Mike's members. We've no view on where the gaps are yet, and there's little time to build up new supply lines for those gaps. So it isn't going to be the be-all and end-all, I'm sure.
I think it's worth adding to that a letter has also gone out to the NHS as providers of services, explicitly saying not to stockpile drugs. So, you know, it's on the industry side that is being managed, and the NHS has been told not to stockpile drugs. And of course, if we don't have that oversight of what's happening nationally and then what the supply is going to be into local trusts and into local pharmacies, etc., then that is a substantial concern as well. So just worth bearing in mind that there is a separation between what's happening nationally and locally.
What do you think about the 6-week figure? I mean, where's that come from?
Well, we in the medical device side, we stockpile to 4 weeks because we've been given the direction that the routes that we use, which is Brugge to Hull, and then air transportation into Doncaster Airport in East Midlands, that's sufficient in terms of they don't see bottlenecks appearing there. So 4 weeks has been the advice we've been given. So we follow to that.
That's been government advice that we've been told to work.
Do you think it's enough? I mean, if we see some of the problems that have been predicted at Dover, is 6 weeks going to be enough?
I mean, I think the problem is actually at Calais. We need the infrastructure to come backwards and forwards, you know, because most medicines coming through Dover and Folkestone, and we don't know how France is going to the EU is going to treat the UK. If we're treated as a third country, the boats and lorries will be just tied up in Calais. They won't come back because it's a closed loop system using.
Do you think we should be aiming for a stockpiling for longer than 6 weeks?
We haven't seen the basis on which that 6 weeks has been developed, so we can't answer.
You haven't seen the basis
question
on which it's been developed. Mr. Thompson, what do you think the basis is?
Well, I think we have to rely on what the Border Force advise government is the requirement. A number of my members have stockpiled for more than 6 weeks because those are standard buffer amounts that they would have. But as I said in my evidence to the Brexit Select Committee, I think that is a key assumption that we're making. However, stockpiling, I think we have always been clear, stockpiling will not be enough.
Just explain
and
that.
There are some other things that we need to do. Well, for instance, we have some medicines, right? So if we take, say, a latest medicine where we take a bit of DNA out of a patient, it goes to the continent, they modify it, they bring it back, and they put it back into the patient. You cannot stockpile a person's DNA. So we need to have some routes, which may be a fast-track route. It could be airlifting. It could be in extremis opening us other supply lines. So, for instance, we could decide that we would look at America and look to bring some product in from America. But we need to recognise that that product is currently signed off to a completely different licence by the FDA. So there'll be a lot of preparatory work that would need to be done to ensure that we were able to bring American product in. In the same way for the generics industry, you know, there are some Indian suppliers who currently don't supply the UK but have licenses. Again, you could do some investigation to bring some extra stock in there. So I think those are things which, you know, I have to say this sector, I think, is more advanced than any other sector in terms of the planning that's going on, which is needed because of the long-term supply chains that we have. But I do think that we will need to be looking at other things as well to guarantee, you know, that we do the best that we can.